Stem stitch is one of the fundamental stitches of hand embroidery. It's worked along a line, either a straight line or a curved line. Here I'm going to be working along a curved line. Stem stitch is worked from left to right. So I'm going to bring my needle and thread up at the left end of the line. Now, as you work along the line from left to right, make sure to always hold your thread below the line. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, I like to begin with what I call a starter stitch. So you go back in just a little bit along the line, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Here I'm using a number 5 pearl cotton, and come back up at the same place where the thread just came up. Now that's the starter stitch. Now I'm going to do the first actual stem stitch. So I'll keep going along the line about another maybe 1/8 of an inch, and then come back up in that same hole where the last stitch just went down and pull through. Now notice as I pull through, I've been using my thumb to hold the thread below the line, but then as I pull through, I take my thumb away so that the thread can pull through freely. This will prevent the thread from becoming knotted or tangled as you stitch. So I'll keep stitching along the line. Now, notice that this line is going to start to curve in the other direction. Some people think that when you want to go along a curve in the other direction, that you should flip your thread to the outside of the curve. Don't do that, and there are 2 reasons. First of all, you will have a little joint where you switch from under to over. Also, the stitching will not look as pretty. It will not actually be the same stitch. So what you want to do instead, and that's what I've done here, I have stitched with just a regular length stitch, and then when I come to a place where it's curving in the other direction, I've shortened my stitches. And you'll do the same thing whenever you're going around a tighter curve, even in this direction. Simply shorten your stitches. Now, what will happen if you do start stitching with your thread above the line instead of below the line? Good question. Here I've done 2 rows of stitching. This is a line of stem stitch done properly with the thread held below the line. See how pretty that looks? Above it, there is a line of stitching where I have held the thread above the line. It doesn't look nearly as pretty, does it? Now, why is that? Well, that's another good question. Most embroidery thread, and that includes pearl cotton, that is most hand embroidery thread, including pearl cotton, is made with what's called an S-twist, also called a right-handed twist. See the way the diagonals go on that piece of thread? And it doesn't matter which way you're holding the threads, the diagonals will always be right-handed. If you take your right hand and put it out in front of you, that is the way your right hand will slant. So this is called a right-handed, or also called an S-twist. When stem stitch is done correctly, that twist of the thread will be maintained, and the threads will lie next to each other very neatly. Here it's been done with the thread held above the line, and as you stitch and pull through, the twist is gradually undone. So the thread is gradually becoming untwisted. So you can't really see the individual threads now, and they look just kind of all mashed together. So you don't want to do this stitching if you're trying to do a stem stitch. Now, this is all being done with a sewing motion where you go in and out in one motion. And I'm using my right hand because I'm right-handed. and that works very well for stitching from left to right with the thread held below the needle. What if you are left-handed? How can you get the same effect? You can work the stem stitch left-handed by doing just the opposite. Go from right to left, and instead of holding your thread below the line, hold your thread above the line. That way you will get the same effect. A stem stitch is a great stitch for outlining things. Here I've used stem stitch to outline this little moray eel. We have this on our Etsy shop, and you can see I've used stem stitch to outline and define the shape of the eel. It can also be used by itself. Here I've used stem stitch to work this vine around the little bird pincushion. So that's how you do stem stitch.